Hey guys, Steve Patterson here. All comedians now are trying to do something to get out online and be part of the solution if we can to this terrible time we live in. I thought I would try something a little bit different and try to learn something about different things from experts and get a little comedy and music involved. So I hope you like it. This is the Steve Patterson Project. I'm literally locked out.
It's killing me.
Hello and welcome to the Steve Patterson Project. The third T is silent and I'm Steve Patterson. Why am I sitting on a couch? Why not? Anyone can do a monologue standing or sitting in a chair. You ever seen one on a couch? Different. All right, good talk. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that the Canadian government will subsidize up to 75% of wages for those who qualify during this pandemic. That's up from 10% that they had previously agreed to. So congratulations, Canadians, on the 65% raise. And you did it without doing anything. You're all pretty much bank CEOs now. If you Canadians are wondering what to do with all that extra cash, financial experts are advising novice investors that now is the perfect time to buy low and sell high. Meanwhile, my advice is to buy food and eat that food. Over in the UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson tested positive for the COVID-19 virus, and now his chief advisor, Dominic Cummings, has self-isolated after showing symptoms. At this rate, I'd give it about 3 more days, and the only ones allowed on the streets of England will be cockroaches and Keith Richards, just like the devil intended. Meanwhile, British inventor James Dyson announced that his company spent the last week designing a new ventilator for the virus and will ship up to 10,000 of them early this month to support the UK's National Health Service. Then, in the spirit of unity, he'll ship more of them to North America to be sold at Bed Bath & Beyond for $17,000 each. Great work, James. According to People magazine, the Harry formerly known as Prince and Meghan 100% that Markle have left the mansion that they were holed up in Victoria, BC, to settle in Los Angeles? Come on, guys. It's ridiculous. I thought you didn't want any media attention. You were in Canada. Trust me, as an entertainer who's worked here for the last 2 decades, you were in the perfect place to not get any media attention. And once again, welcome to this self-produced internet show, the Steve Patterson Project. Actually, Meghan has landed her first post-royal gig. This is a true story. She will be narrating a Disney documentary about elephants. So move over, Tiger King. Make way for the elephant princess. There she is. God, I hope that graphic's appropriate. In the midst of everything that's going on now, people say that after this, we will think of the world in terms of pre and post. Pre-Joe Exotic and post-Raisin Bran. Post-Raisin Bran, because pretty soon, it'll be all that's left. Meanwhile, a little closer to home, the American president whose name I shall not mention because I'd like to one day again kiss my loved ones with this mouth, brought the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell, to speak at the daily White House briefing for some reason. Lindell told Americans to use this time reading the Bible and spending time with family. That is, I guess, until your family irritates you so much that you want to smother them with something. And when that time comes, I suggest My Pillow made of memory foam so you can forget what you've done. On the upside, Lindell did also say that his bedding company would dedicate 75% of its manufacturing to producing cotton face masks, which is a lovely gesture, but now here in Canada, Christine McGee of Sleep Country Canada is going to have to answer that at Trudeau's next press conference and announce Sleep Country's mix and mask sale. Sleep Country Canada, why buy a face mask anywhere else? Well, because we should be giving them to healthcare professionals so they can save the rest of us. That's why. But it is a very catchy jingle, you have to admit. That's our first monologue, and I really think it's one of the better ones we've ever had here on the Steve Patterson Project. Now it's time to throw to our first guest. She's an IT expert, a keynote speaker, a best-selling author, and just a great person to talk to. ladies and gentlemen, Amber Mack. Thank you so much. You're our first ever guest on the Steve Patterson Projecttt. So I know you're going to be our best guest we've ever had. I'm very confident.
Yes, I will be by default. That's good news.
First question, let me just get it out of the gate. Virtual meetings like this one, is it necessary to wear pants or not?
That is a really good question. I would highly recommend that you wear pants for all virtual meetings, because you may forget that you're in a meeting and you may stand up, and that is not good for anyone. So I think pants are necessary. And I also really believe that people have to be extra vigilant now that we're using all this live streaming technology. Make sure that you turn it off. That's also important. Make sure it's ended. Make sure your camera is not on, your computer is closed. I know we are just days away from hearing the horror stories of someone who was in a Zoom call and left their computer on, and somehow we know everything about their life and their relationship.
This is a good point, and that's a great tip. I hope people are listening. Now let's get into it. You have been in this world, in the IT world, I don't know if you'd call it the virtual reality world, but communicating this way for a long, long time, right since the .com boom. Now there's more people, I think, than ever that are just getting into it, just trying to get a grasp on these virtual meetings. Is there one bit of advice you would be able to give to people that are just getting started?
I think honestly, even though the technology is supposed to get easier and easier every day, what we've seen over the past couple of decades is that when it comes to video calls like we're doing right now, the technology just becomes more sophisticated all the time. So in many ways, it actually doesn't really get easier for anyone. The technology gets more complex, and therefore people always are in this state of catching up. So I think the number one thing for people is to not feel discouraged because you're going to fail. We have been in this business right now. We have multiple cameras set up here in our studio. We have been doing live streaming for a long time, but trust me, I have so many horror stories about how things have gone wrong. So at the end of the day, I think, just to borrow a quote from Voltaire, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think that's really critical for people right now.
We're not even 2 minutes in and we've already got Voltaire. This is why you're the pro, Amber.
Best guest ever.
A lot of people seem to be stationing themselves in front of their bookcases at home. That seems to be the default setting of a lot of things I've seen. So that might put pressure on people to stock their bookcases maybe differently, or be embarrassed maybe by the books that they have. Do you have any suggestions for those people?
Well, if you're anything like my husband, what he is doing when he's watching people in front of their bookcases is that he is instantly zooming in on their video to see what books they have behind them.
Right.
So I would say that there is added pressure right now to make sure that your bookcase is in fact in order. And I think at the end of the day, if you don't have good books, maybe you want to go in another room.
Right. So they might want to show off something else. I mean, this is just my office behind me because I don't have a proper bookcase. I have books, Amber. I have books.
Sure you do.
I just didn't want to be in front of them right now. But for instance, you're experienced in this. You've got a great background that we're looking at now. And we're also seeing some other shots, which that's advanced for most people, I think. But down the road, is that something you would suggest for people that are doing more and more meetings, is put a little bit of thought into the background and the setting that they're in?
Honestly, I think there are probably just a couple of basic tips that people can follow. One is to make sure that you have good audio. Even though people think so much about video when we're talking about video conferencing, audio is critical. So that means if you have a USB headset, maybe you steal one from your kid because they love video games, then that is a really good start. So great audio is a really good first step. Wear earbuds as well, or headphones, and that helps to reduce the echo for other people. And then you can get into things like framing. And so I wouldn't necessarily start out with thinking about how do I do a multi-camera shot. I think at the end of the day, for most people, it's really about audio, video, and even just framing in terms of not having your audience or your colleagues looking up your nose. If I can just ask one thing for these video calls, that I would say, put your computer or your camera on a stack of books, or even a box if you don't have books. And then make sure the camera is pointing slightly down. That's a much more attractive angle than looking straight up your nostrils.
I feel like you're giving me this advice. I'm going to sink my chair down a little bit here. I feel like I've violated everything that you just said, basically.
Yeah, it was a subtle way of telling you that.
There. Now I'm at the kids' table at Christmas. This is a question that I wanted to get to. With the people coming into this for the first time, I find that I'm very, very new to Zoom that we're on right now. Half the meeting, if not more, is about just getting the meeting set up. Are there any great segues to getting to actual content in the meeting that you have? Because I'd say 90% of the last meeting was, hey, look at this. Well, now it's you talking. Now it's you talking.
Yeah, no, you know what? I have to tell you that first of all, I hate conference calls. I think I'm not a big fan of calls in general. I think video conference calls maybe are a little bit better, but I'm a big fan of getting set up before the call starts. So I think, I don't know if this will ever happen, but in an ideal world, what you would say is that, hey, you know, our video call starts at 2 p.m. Can everybody sign on at 1:50 just to troubleshoot any issues? I mean, this is more how we should be thinking, because that 10 minutes of troubleshooting does exist. And for the people who don't need it, they don't have to sign on.
On that note, I would like to turn it over, not turn it over, but have join us now, our fly on the wall that's been listening this whole time, legendary Canadian musician, Hawksley Workman. There he is.
Hey.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Amber.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. You listened to our conversation, yes?
Yeah, I've been very, very intent, actually. It's been a very good chat.
And do you have any questions right out of the gate from your perspective, technology-wise?
It just seems to me like we've all been living in a Skype world for what feels like 10 or 15 years. I'd never heard of this company Zoom, but all of a sudden, like interfacing with it, it seems to be a superior product. Did it come out of nowhere? Is Skype over? What in terms of the marketplace, is Zoom kind of been waiting for an opportunity like this to just show what a wonderful application it is?
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. You know, Skype, which has been around for so many years, has gone through a couple of different iterations, but it's really stayed true to being essential to have those one-on-one phone calls. So we still use it in terms of media interviews and broadcast media. They'll Skype me, but again, that's just a one-on-one conversation. And I think where Zoom has really had the edge over the past couple of years is understanding how to do these multi-person conversations, and also how to have a number of different viewers, in some cases up to 1,000 people watching at the same time. And now all of a sudden, when people aren't able to leave their homes, everybody is looking for that solution. So no disrespect to Skype, because it's still an excellent platform, but at the end of the day, I don't think that they've been able to evolve at the same rate that Zoom has to really service the needs that we have today in this world where all events have been canceled.
Amber, I want to say thank you so much for doing this, and Hawksley for joining us on the tail end of that. Amber, I'm conscious of your time. I know you're very, very busy. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for wearing pants. At least I'm assuming you are.
I'll just show it. They're jeans. They're jeans.
Wow. Okay. Now, you didn't have to do that.
No, I insist. I insist. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, we just had a great conversation with the three of us, and now it's just the two of us, just Hawksley Workman and I. And let's be very clear, a fabulous hutch behind you. I want to give a shout out to the maker of that hutch.
Yes, my wife's grandfather, I think, made this hutch.
So that'll last forever, because they made things to last.
They did. Yes, this was imperative.
And if you ever do an album, not saying I need any cut of this, but if you do one and this is the cover, Hawksley and Hutch is what I would like. What I'd like him to call.
Hawksley and Hutch. Yeah, I like that.
Now I'd given you a request to perform. You've been sitting there very patiently with your guitar this whole time. So is it all right if you give us a song and then we chat?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm looking forward to playing this, actually.
Thanks, brother.
It's Ukulele Boy, as requested by Steve Patterson. Ukulele boy, ukulele boy, coming down the mountainside, a hair of curls, he rides a tiger. Ukulele boy, ukulele boy, ukulele boy. You bat your eyes so shy and coyish, kind of girlish, kind of boyish. Ukulele boy, ukulele like a lady, but with a 5 o'clock shady. I don't know. Ukulele boy. Tell me, have you seen my Lord coming down the mountainside? He comes to us in flesh and blood from the womb inside of Zeus's thigh. Tell me, have you seen my Lord, master of fertility, breathing life into an actor's lines, wetting women's loins with ecstasy? Tell me, have you seen my Lord with his fellowship of lust and joy? The very sight of him intoxicates you and makes you want to walk a talk a look like a smoke a hookah, maybe lick a, maybe suck a, maybe you could use a ukulele boy. Ukulele boy. Come on, I wanna lay you. Tell me, honey, what you saying? Ukulele boy. Ukulele boy. Ukulele boy. Do you have a swollen labia or a knobby old shillelagh? Ukulele boy. Oh, mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
Yes! Are you kidding me? If we do nothing else ever on this show, this was worth it right there. That was so awesome, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm heartened that you like that so much. It's
I like the whole thing. I saw it live. I was your guest. Thank you. The God That Comes. And like a one-man rock opera.
Yeah.
And that song is in the context of everything. It's part of the story. The reason I listen to it a lot, weekly at least. And I started to, my 5-year-old daughter got a ukulele when we were in Iceland on a trip.
Oh,
and she was playing some ukulele, and I thought I should play ukulele boy, not even thinking maybe these lyrics aren't right for a 5-year-old, but I still love it. I love it, man. And I think it encapsulates the artist that you are. You're funny. You'll do anything in a song, and lyrically amazing, and just so fun, and but also sexy. A lot of sexy references in there.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know where we're headed because no one does, but I do believe that the arts, whatever they are extremely important, and it's a type of escape that people are looking for right now, right? So please, buddy, please keep writing. I believe that we are going to get back out there, but tide us over until we can with, if you would, with live serenades from the hutch. I do want to know, before I forget, I would love to have you help program my show and tell me about a next musician that I should have on. And even if it's someone that maybe the rest of the country or the rest of the world hasn't heard of yet, but maybe they should. Get some suggestions for me?
A couple come to mind right off the top of my head. And one is actually a music industry veteran. I mean, he's a hero of mine, and I feel like the whole world should know about him. His name is John Southworth, and he's a Toronto artist. And I think he is brilliant beyond measure. And I think John Southworth is a guy who has an interesting mind and an interesting way of seeing things. And in some ways, Ukulele Boy, like, he was somebody I got to hang around with a lot when I had first moved to Toronto as a kid. And, he was kind of one of those talisman for how weird could you be, and Southworth is that weird. So, and the other one I was thinking of is Colleen Brown, who is an artist who now lives in Toronto. And she put out a record called Foot in Heart about 10 or 12 years ago that I thought was arguably some of the best songwriting I've ever heard anywhere, but especially out of Canada. And we loved her so much. My wife and I were falling in love to her record, and we had a small wedding, but we'd sort of set aside a budget to fly Colleen Brown in to sing our favorite song at our wedding. I think she's somebody that people should be paying attention to.
Listen, man, thank you so much for helping me on this first episode. I couldn't think of a better guest.
Steve, this has really got me excited. My brain is racing now. I think that you're doing something special.
Well, thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for doing that particular song for me.
Oh, man, my pleasure. Thanks for the request.
We'll talk to you again soon, man. Cheers.
All right, take care.
Hey, everybody. Well, that's the end of our first episode of the Steve Patterson Projecttt. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my guests, Amber, Mack, and Hawksley Workman. Thanks to the band Whitehorse for the use of their fantastic song. And thank you to my funny friends for helping me write the jokes for this thing. We're going to be back next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, and the week after that, trying to give you guys some entertainment and some knowledge during this time when we all need to help each other pull through. Thanks again for watching, and hope to see you again next week.
I'm living downtown. I'm living downtown. I'm living downtown. And it's killing me.